Hello guys, what is going on? SonOfChelsea back here again for another episode of Added Time, answering your questions that you kindly submitted for today's show. I got some good topics to get through today in terms of some transfer stuff, looking forward to next season, also the rest of this season. Before we get into any of that good stuff, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you don't miss any of the uploads this week. Had a few days off, of course, the international break, not a ton of stuff to speak about regarding Chelsea, but ramping up to the weekend now when Chelsea do return against West Brom on Saturday, and of course we've got the Champions League, the FA Cup. It's going to be a big few weeks and rest of the season basically for Chelsea and for Thomas Tuchel, so make sure you don't miss any of the uploads. Subscribe, also notification bell, and hit that like button because it helps out the channel too. But let's get into your questions. Firstly, here from Nathan, who asks, what do you think our goals are for next season? Keep going, bro. Thank you, Nathan. I think our goals are pretty simple. I think Chelsea have to be in top four, but I think we have to be a lot more than just in the top four. I think Chelsea have to be competing for a Premier League title, and I don't think that's me saying that. Just listen to Thomas Tuchel so far as Chelsea's head coach. Probably the most used word, I've said this before on the channel, I think he's used the word titles the most because, you know, this is a guy who has won serious titles, you know, in terms of especially at PSG. He knows the expectation level at Chelsea, and considering some of the business that could be done by Chelsea this summer, Chelsea are not just looking to be a top four team, a team, you know, just fighting to get into the Champions League places. I think we have to be seriously competing for a Premier League title. I think it's a little bit much to say we have to win it, but I think Chelsea have to be serious contenders at this point of next season. For instance, I think if we're where we are now in a year's time, I can't see Thomas Tuchel lasting that long. So I think that's the key for next season, and I think that's pretty obvious. Ivan asks, will Frank Lampard be blamed if AC Milan decides to buy Tomori in the summer? No, I don't think he should be, because he's not the one selling Fikayo Tomori. If Tomori does, you know, leave in the summer and that option to buy is activated basically by AC Milan, and that seems like a real possibility at this point. I have to say, I'd be more surprised if Tomori doesn't leave permanently at this point, which is really sad because I think he's got such a bright future in the game. You know, if it wasn't for Frank Lampard coming in, I'm not quite sure Tomori would have been given a chance. I mean, that's of course a hypothetical, but I think Tomori getting a chance at Chelsea was a big thing, and getting these youngsters getting into the team from the academy, and especially going out on loan, getting that experience coming back. It is realistic to say too that not all of them can make it, you know, and all of them have to be good enough. And what happened, and this is what happens in football basically, you know. And I think for Tomori personally, I'm happy for him that he could be going elsewhere and just getting football. Of course it isn't going to help Chelsea, and I have said this on the channel before, I think it may be a transfer or one of those departures once again Chelsea come to regret. But I think it's on Chelsea if they are willing to let Tomori go this summer for what would be a pretty low fee in my opinion for a player of that talent. I think that Chelsea need to do business to rectify that and not allow ourselves in 5 years time, if Tomori goes on to fulfill his potential, to regret that decision. So I think it's on the club. I don't think it's on a previous manager. He's not the one selling the player, it's currently the club, so we'll see what happens with Tomori. TY7 asks, would you rather spend 180 million on Haaland alone, or would you rather spend it in other areas and build a proper attacking system with a good structure with the talents we have, instead of buying another shiny toy without bringing more unbalance? This is something I have said before. I think that Chelsea will be spending big this summer. I think we will be signing a striker. I have to say, despite my sort of agreement with your sort of frustration over spending a lot last summer and in a year later having to spend even more on, you know, the potential of signing, say, Haaland, for instance, for like 150 million could be even more than we spent on free attackers, Havertz, Ziyech and Werner. I know some people have brought up that, well, you know, two of those are not strikers, but Kai and Timo have been playing as strikers at number 9 at times, especially Timo Werner. I mean, we didn't sign Timo Werner. I think it's very easy to be sort of revise history now. We bought Timo Werner for his goals because he was one of the most ruthless finishers in European football. We didn't buy him to assist. We didn't buy him for his attacking, you know, for his hard work. We bought him to score goals, and that was predominantly why we bought him. And I think a lot of us believe that Timo Werner would solve our issues. Now, that doesn't mean that Chelsea, because they spent a lot last summer, shouldn't go out and spend, if they can, on, say, Erling Haaland or Lukaku. I'm going to have some more videos about that because I think it's a really interesting talking point regarding a striker. I think Chelsea need goals. If we want to win the Premier League title as soon as possible, we need someone who's going to at least guarantee us 20 goals a season. And I'm not quite sure at the moment we're getting that from our current strikers, unless Tuchel in the summer can get signings elsewhere to protect our defence. I think he's being a little bit more cautious at the moment with the structure of the team, which is really helping us out, but maybe we're lacking something in sort of attacking areas. You know, we're not being as risk-taking as we were before, and I think that is maybe hurting us in the final third. So I still think Chelsea, despite agreeing with your sort of main point, will go out there and sign a big player. What that means for our attack, I'm not quite sure, but let's hope it does us the world of good and we finally can get a clinical edge to this team that's been lacking in recent years. Sean asks, if you had a choice next season, buy a top centre-back and switch to a back four without splashing big on other positions, or stay with the back three and focus on a top CM and striker, I'm going to go with the second choice here. Also sort of cheating, because I think the second choice you pose about it, especially a central midfielder, a defensive midfielder, would give us the possibility potentially to go to a four-back system more than, say, the first choice, because I think that signing a top centre-back and not rectifying, I think, the DM issue in Chelsea's current squad, I don't think is going to fix all the problems. I think if we go into next season with the same set of midfielders, I think Tuchel will probably be forced to do the same thing as he's doing now, which then, you know, it's all a link, isn't it? It's all about balancing things. I think it would then probably affect the attacking side of the pitch as well. So I'd go for the second choice, because I actually don't think we desperately need a new centre-back. I think the current centre-backs are doing so well at the moment. There is a question mark over, say, someone like Christensen, who's thriving at the moment. Could he adapt to a back four where he struggled before? I think that's a big question mark, but we do have Thiago Silva. Antonio Rudiger is playing some of the best football of his career at the moment. He really is. You know, there are young players like Mark Guehi who could return into the first team in pre-season and really impress. So that's not an area I'm looking at and going, we desperately need to sign someone. Reports are that, you know, Chelsea could be signing someone, but I think actually a defensive midfielder, someone who we've been lacking in this squad since Matic left, I think is even more of a priority, I think, than the striker, but absolutely beyond that striker. So I'm going to go with your second option, because I just think it makes more sense and is actually what the squad needs recruitment-wise in the summer. And finally, Carefree Youth, a friend of the channel, if you could sign one past Chelsea player to play in this current team, who would it be? I think it'd be very easy to just say Frank, because that's, you know, Chelsea's best player, so just bring him back into the side currently. I'm going to look at it more from a case of what do this current Chelsea side actually need. And as we've been speaking about in today's episode with other questions, I think mainly if we're talking about an attacking sense, we need a goal scorer. So I'm looking towards Diego Costa and I'm looking towards Didier Drogba. I'd probably say Diego Costa, I think, would be an amazing player to bring back in sort of his prime. But Didier Drogba probably would edge it just based on the amount of goals he scored for Chelsea. But either of those two, because we do need a clinical edge. We do need someone who's going to attract defenders, be a real focal point, be a real hassle for teams. As I say, I've got some interesting content coming up, a collaboration where I delve into a lot of these issues. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But personally, I'd go for Didier or Diego, because I think this team needs a number 9, a proper number 9 who can guarantee you 20 goals and take Chelsea potentially to a Premier League title once again. But thank you guys once again for watching this episode of Added Time. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea. Have a great day and I'll see you again.